Okay, you guys, so before we get started, like and subscribe so I know you like this new series I'm doing on the Denise Richard show, Gossip Dump each week related to what is discussed on the show, sometimes what isn't. And so then I'll know. Okay, and also helps the video because I've got to up the revenue on YouTube. It doesn't pay a lot, and I know you guys enjoy these, So last night we're introduced to Denise Richard's family and her crazy lifestyle. Denise Richard's family, picture 1. Denise family, picture number 2. So it doesn't appear that somehow Denise Richards is doing that well financially. She is supporting quite a few different properties, but I don't know. You tell me what you think. Let me show you. Here's what she said on the show, and I want you guys to know that I literally had to go get this off Bravo because I couldn't articulate it to you. It was so confusing to me. My living situation is a little confusing. I don't live in our Malibu house. Aaron's mom and dad and his brother, they were going to stay with us for a few months, but it's been over 3 years. So are Aaron's parents and brother living in their Malibu house, but Denise isn't? I'm so confused. So then she moved out of, I guess, her primary Malibu house so Aaron's family could live there. Aaron had a new age clinic in Malibu, but I think it shut down because he opened it during COVID. And some of my friends in Malibu went and checked it out, but there wasn't a lot of people there, I guess. And then my friends heard that they tried to maintain it even though there was no business, but then they couldn't or something and it shut down. And now, it's burnt down. So I guess that's, moot point. I needed some space, so I rented a townhouse. And then I rented another one and another one, so I had 3 of them. Now that sounds ostentatious, but look at what she's calling a townhouse. This is like an apartment building. It doesn't really scream luxury townhouse to me. I'm just saying. So she has 3 of these. And she said that she lives with the girls unless she wants to be intimate with Aaron. And then if she does, she goes into one of the townhouses and they do it in that townhouse. And that townhouse is where she also uses it as a studio for her OnlyFans that she's doing along with her daughter, which, by the way, her daughter said completely embarrassed her that her mom was doing that. Here you go. One's an office, one's a studio, one's for Lola and Eloise and for us to sleep in. And then when Aaron and I want privacy, we sleep in the studio. So we're all over the fucking place. Denise joked, I told Sam and Lola that we can be like Melrose Place. And they're like, what's that? Denise Richards, when she first came to LA, she was a model, trying to make it from Illinois. And she ended up going on Melrose Place. Here you go. Who remembers Denise Richards and Lonnie Anderson in season 4 of Melrose Place? She did not come to LA on her own. She originally came with her mom and dad. They moved there while she was in high school, and she was gorgeous and obviously got noticed for her good looks and probably invited to a lot of events where she met a lot of powerful people and got some opportunities. She's probably been through the ringer, I'd say, with the Hollywood, predator people, let's just say, for sure. She married Charlie Sheen. Let's start with that. Charlie Sheen didn't have the best reputation when she married him in Beverly Hills, for sure. So one of the moments we see in the beginning is Denise Richards' love for animals, which is well documented in the press. She's a really big, sucker for animals, like most people. But she seems to be a little bit irresponsible with her pets, okay? And this is also a theme which I think the producers were trying to poke a little fun on. She buys 4 golden retrievers that are purebred, which means they might have been interbred. We don't know, but I'll say that it's very possible in LA. Take it from me, who had a golden retriever, who thought I was buying a golden that was healthy and perfect, and turns out they, inbred the dog without me knowing, and my dog had loads of issues and ended up dying in my arms when he was 9 years old, very young, from cancer. It pissed me off so much. I was like, I will never buy a purebred dog again after that, what they do to those poor dogs. I had no idea until I got more educated about it. But anyway, needless to say, she goes and gets 4 of these types of dogs. And she takes them to a trainer, and the trainer can only do so much. I've hired, the most expensive dog trainers in LA, and you pay them like $5,000 a dog, and they stay with the dog for 3 weeks, and they teach the dog commands and get them on a good habit schedule. But if you don't implement that exact training, then your dog ends up a disaster again 5 minutes later, because the dog is testing who's alpha. I could do a whole show about dog training because I spend so much money on it. Anyway, Denise does the same type of thing. She gets these dogs, but she's bringing these 4 golden retrievers to her 3 townhouses. And the dogs are just running around amok. And it's not enough space for dogs of that size, especially puppies, without constant attention by, the kids and them to take the dogs out. And I mean, it's just really crazy. Now, she says she does it because they're all family members and they don't want to break up the family of the dogs, which sounds sweet on the surface. But the truth is, if you don't have the time to give a golden retriever constant attention and exercise and a large space. I mean, I had a house in Beverly Hills in my 20s and it still was barely big enough. When I got wealthy and my house was 10,000 square feet, which is about when towards the end of my dog's life, that was just a good enough size for my golden. I mean, because he was so rambunctious, he loved to run, he'd run through the giant emptiness of that house. You saw it on TV. Remember, Camille didn't like my furniture. She said it was too sparse. Now, this reminded me of the lawsuits that Denise Richards has had in the past about her not taking care of people's property she rents, mainly because of animals. Now, you might remember this from a few years ago. Denise and her husband, Aaron Phypers, are currently fighting their former landlords, Anthony Elrod and Christopher Masterson, in court. The couple leased a Calabasas pad in July of 2018, a couple of months before they got hitched. Last year, Anthony and Christopher sued Denise and her husband for allegedly trashing the home and leaving it in need of dramatic repairs. They said she violated numerous terms of their agreement. The landlords claimed Denise agreed to only allow 2 pot-bellied pigs and 3 dogs onto the property, still a lot of animals for a lease. The lease had a clause that said Denise agreed to properly use, operate, and safeguard the property, keeping it clean, sanitary, and would pay for all damage to the property caused by tenants or pets. It's pretty standard. But she didn't do that. And in fact, they said Denise broke the deal by moving in with a bunch of animals not previously mentioned. Anthony and Christopher accused her of living with over a half dozen dogs and cats. I mean, this is when it comes with being a little irresponsible. I'm just saying, I see red flags with Denise Richards and animals. I'm just, where are all these cats and dogs now that she had a few years ago? She give them away? Where are they? Denise then countersued them, saying it wasn't true and that it was defamation. But I'd say based on last night's show, it was true, because she's already trashing one of her townhouses. The dogs were pooping all over the carpet. She also said that they released some private information that they shouldn't have released. Anyway, that brought everybody to the table and they settled it out. But obviously, Denise Richards is going to have trouble renting, a nice house because this is in the press. And now the show is in the press, even more difficult without a huge security deposit. So after the animal scene, we see Denise Richards deciding to have a barbecue for her family so that she can try to settle things between her 2 older daughters, who are in a feud because one daughter was dating the friend of the younger daughter, who the younger daughter, I guess, introduced the older daughter to. And then the relationship fell apart, and the younger daughter wanted to stay friends with the guy that she introduced the older sister to. And the older sister saw that as a betrayal, that the sister should have just not talked to him at all after they broke up, even though originally she was friends with this person, before she introduced her to her older sister. And then, of course, the older sister is really vicious, in terms of the way she talks. She swears a lot and she's aggressive. And the younger sister is very polite and reserved, and the opposite. So it's like you see this feud erupting between the two siblings. And so Denise Richards thinks this family picnic might get them talking because they're not talking. In fact, one of them is not living with Denise. She's living with Charlie. So Lola has had her ups and downs. You guys are probably aware of some of them from the tabloid stories about, leaving Denise and having huge fights with her and going to live with Charlie. Lola suffered from depression and anxiety severely. Anyway, I feel for Lola. She's joined this really religious thing too. She's gotten really into an influencer named Ali Yost, who is like on the YouTube channel Jesus Freaks. She is an extreme Christian. You have to go watch her channel to get a drift of that. Very, very religious, very extreme. Anyway, she said that changed her life, that Ali and her connection to Jesus, introducing that connection to Lola, really helped her. I don't know what church Ali Yost is a part of, though, which is a little strange. Like, which church does she go to? I only know the pastor who went to a Super Bowl party they had. What church are you in, Ali? Better be a good one. There's some sketchy McSketch churches in LA. I mean, and poor Sami has to deal with a lot, right? Her dad was outed for HIV. He got fired off a show for having drugs and alcohol issues that were really nuts. Denise Richards joins OnlyFans to make her daughter feel better, but to have your mom go and do naked pictures online is really tough. She says on the show that she wants to become a traditional model because some of the things that happen to her on OnlyFans when she posts naked pictures is people write awful things to her. Well, what are those awful things? I know from being on Insta myself, I don't even post naked pictures, and I get sometimes people writing awful things sexually, like, what they want to do to me, or that I'm, I don't know, very derogatory. So I can only imagine what OnlyFans is like, men thinking you like when they talk down to you or say awful things to you, or, imagine that you're their girlfriends and they're like 50-year-old men writing to you disgusting things. I'm sorry. It's so gross. I'm like, please, Sami, get off OnlyFans. So we see Denise Richards running around with Camille Grammer, and they talk about how they know each other, which is that Camille Grammer and Denise Richards were constantly at the Emmys together because their two husbands at the time were always competing for Emmys, Charlie Sheen for 3.5 Men and Kelsey Grammer for Frasier. And so, they would bump into each other, whatever. And obviously, Camille was a model at one point coming from New York. She comes from a rough part of New York and, rags to riches story. And Denise Richards would be similar, so they would have that in common. And then they reconnected on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills again. But they had known each other from, I guess, those circles. Probably Camille had heard of Denise too back when she was young as a model, because there was like a clique of models that was in LA kind of dating a lot of talent, and I think they were a part of that clique, because I have a friend that was in that clique and she used to tell me stories about them. Brandy too was around that clique. So anyway, that was sort of interesting to me, that whole scene. We don't hear Denise Richards talk about Kelsey Grammer dressing in women's clothing or how awful the divorce was, outside of Camille just saying it was like her life imploded and it was like the worst thing she ever went through. Now, you guys might not remember this, but I do. Basically, what happened was Kelsey Grammer was, I guess, into some weird stuff, right? And, he was dressing up in women's clothing and things like that. And Camille really put up with a lot with him. And even he had issues with drugs and alcohol, and she helped him through that whole thing. And then what I remember is he leaves her for a very young woman who I guess he was cheating with on Camille, and then suddenly leaves Camille for this woman very publicly. And Camille is like mortified, and she's got kids with Kelsey, and she can't believe this is happening. And then Kelsey says that Camille is horrific because she serves him with divorce papers on his mom's funeral. But I mean, Kelsey kind of deserved that kind of retaliation because he was horrific to her. And he also made her feel intimidated about money and stuff, where she had never been in a situation where she was supporting that kind of lifestyle. So it was really scary for her. I don't know. That was messy AF, and I can't believe she didn't say more. And we don't get to hear any of Denise Richards' dirt on Charlie Sheen either, because as you guys know, Denise Richards was just put through it like hell with Charlie Sheen because he had addiction issues that he was not willing to give up for her. And she kept trying to kind of stabilize the situation. You know, when Denise met Charlie Sheen, he was known to be dating only strippers and doing loads of drugs. And I think she tried to stabilize him a little. And, you know, he would come in waves and check out again like Charlie Sheen does. And so it was a really tough thing for her. And then she ended up divorcing him when she was 6 months pregnant, which was really hardcore. And then Charlie jumps from her to Brooke Mueller, who also makes an appearance in tonight's episode. And Brooke Mueller is a crack addict. And she's doing drugs while she's pregnant with her kids. She loses her kids for a while because of her drug addictions and getting in trouble. And Denise Richards has to take care of the 2 boys with her own kids for a while. And again, all ties back to Charlie Sheen, right? Because he's such a bad influence. Just saying, fun guy, bad influence. And, you know, sleeping with hookers and strippers openly, no problem for the world to see. So, yeah, these women fell in love with a really difficult dude. The show producers choose to instead focus on Camille and Denise Richards trying to get around in a funny way the plastic and balloon rules and still have a barbecue in Malibu. Of course, Malibu is burnt down now, so none of those rules really matter. I guess they should have been more concerned about the fire hydrants than the plastic forks. We then see them go out and have a barbecue, and surprisingly, Brooke Mueller shows up, which shocked me, with her son, and she's bringing one of her sons with Charlie to this barbecue, and he's quiet and reserved, I guess, supposedly like Charlie is, although I never knew that Charlie was quiet and reserved, but maybe that's why he self-medicated with drugs, so he could interact with people better. People do that. And then there was a Denise Richards and her family, and she's her, one of her relatives from Illinois who's tatted up head to toe. And we sort of see this awkward interaction between the sisters. They're not really going to get anywhere, we find out by the end of the episode. We don't see Camille at the barbecue, oddly, but we see loads of family. Erin Phypers is sitting off to the side, kind of wanting to shy away from the cameras and not be involved with the center stage of the show. You see that happening, and that's it. Now, did you know that Erin Phypers was sued for misleading a woman who had cancer, or at least that's what she alleged? So this is a brand new lawsuit. It just dropped a few weeks ago. Erin Phypers said to a woman that the stem cell treatments he was offering at his clinic would help mitigate her cancer down. And if it didn't, they would give half their money back because it was so expensive. Well, the woman went through the treatment sessions with Erin, and her cancer got worse, not better. Her tumors grew in size, so they demanded their 50% back on their money. Erin Phypers ignored that request, wouldn't give them the money back, and then turned around and said, let's just do more treatments. And they were like, we don't want to do more treatments. Anyway, this man's wife ended up dying. Here's some on the lawsuit. Perry and Katsula Biel paid Phypers $126,000 in return for the stem cell procedures between July and September of 2023. Per the documents, just months later in December, Perry claims his wife was told her tumors had expanded by 25%. So they wrote Phyper to let him know and request $63,000 of their money back. On May 21st, 2024, Miss Katsula Biel succumbed to her illness and died. The filing read, on June 28, 2024, Mr. Perry spoke with Phypers by telephone, who acknowledged the debt but proffered a series of excuses for his failure to pay the $63,000. Yeah, but see, most of this was done verbally, which is, I guess, the way Erin Phypers does. You saw him on Beverly Hills. He's a fast talker. So I guess this guy's going to struggle to get this money back, but it's pretty nasty business here if Erin did this, really nasty. I have a lot of information on Phypers, but we'll discuss him on a later show that I do on Denise Richards' new show. Well, let's leave this on a bright note, shall we? I don't know if I'd be calling this show Denise Richards and her Wild Things. Wild Things isn't exactly what I would say. And there's a lot more to talk about with Denise Richards. She's a very complicated character for sure. So, like everybody, she's gray. And Aaron, I'm not so sure. I think he's more towards the darker side, but that's just me. I'm going to tell you a lot more gossip about these people over the next few weeks as I cover the show. I know a lot about them, and you're going to find this, I think, interesting. I can't wait. All right, you guys, like, subscribe, and hit that notification. Show me that you like this series so I know, okay? Big kiss.